Church, Casey here with another Tuesday Tune-In. Hey, I just wanted to revisit scripture from this last Sunday out of John chapter 21. We are currently in the middle of a series of just encounters with the resurrected Jesus. And this last week, Clyde brought us the word where Jesus reinstates Peter. And so let me read it for you and we'll talk a little bit about it. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said, "you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again, Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Then take care of my sheep." Then the third time he said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, "Do you love me?" He said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." And Jesus said, "Feed my sheep." What's interesting is whenever there's scripture that talks about sheep, I always like to reflect upon my own experience because growing up, I raised sheep. So my family and I, we had some acreage and we owned sheep, and so we would have lambs, and I would bring lambs to the fair and show them at the fair and sell them for market. And so it's just part of kind of our life was raising farm animals, raising sheep, and just taking care of them. But sometimes what happens is when you have sheep and you breed them and a lamb is born, sometimes we get what we would call a bummer lamb. Bummer lamb would be a poor lamb who was born, but then the ewe didn't take care of it. And so what would end up happening is that we would take the lamb and it would live in a cardboard box in our washroom area, and we would feed it milk out of a bottle. And it was a fun experience because the lambs, they're so cute when they come out. They're not all fluffy. They're like these cute little black long-legged things with a cute tail. And they would just love when you would feed them a bottle of this like sweet milk that you made for them. And they just loved it. And so when Jesus is talking to Peter here, he says, "Feed my lambs, take care of my sheep." It just hits home to me because I just remember what that was like, taking care of an actual kind of helpless baby that needed that milk, that needed that nourishment. And the lamb actually started looking to my dad and looking to my mom, and not too much to me because I was still a kid. I didn't know what to do. But they would look to my mom and dad as if they were like, this is like who I need to go to for life, for sustenance. And so the lamb would know what's up. So after a while, the lamb got too big for the box. We had to move him out to the pen, and he was with the other sheep. But at feeding time, I remember this so distinctly. The lamb, was getting bigger, and my dad would go out and would start feeding the sheep, and he left the gate open, and the lamb would run from the pen, run about 50 yards to our house, run up the stairs, and it was summertime or springtime, so the door was always open, and run through the door and wait at the kitchen for us to make its bottle of milk. And my dad would go there, my mom would go there and make the milk, and the lamb would put its two hooves up on the sink and look at them make it, and then we'd feed it because it was still weaning off the milk. It still wanted that milk. And it just makes me think about, we as God's sheep, God's children, do we desire that type of nourishment? Do we just leave the safety of our pen to go back to the presence of milk, the presence of this place, this source of sustenance? Or do we get comfortable in our pen and kind of forget about what we need? And I was thinking about this, that Peter, he forgot about that call on his life. And Jesus was reinstating him and saying, "Yes, you deny me, but guess what? I'm giving you 3 opportunities to be reminded about what I'm calling you to do, Peter. And that is to go take care of my sheep, to feed them, to remind them of everything that I have taught you." And so, guys, we are his sheep, just very much like we are like Peter as well, who is always trying to get close to Jesus. As soon as he found out that it was Jesus on the shore, he jumped out of the boat. He's the one who walked on water to go towards Jesus. Just like the lamb left the pen to run and get the milk, we have to be willing to run to Jesus in order to get that source of life, that source of power, in order for us to have joy, in order to go share that with the rest of the world and feed others, take care of others, and give them the hope of Jesus Christ. Anyway, I just wanted to encourage you and just share some of my reflections and things out of that story this week. I really appreciate Clyde bringing the word. It was amazing just to hear the truth of how God just loves us right where we are and is pursuing us, no matter how far we've strayed. He is a God who loves us. So be encouraged. Remember that. God bless you, and thank you for tuning in.